3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Welcome back to TTMTrades Daily Review. I had to stretch you out. Today we're going to be doing our daily review on ticker JRJR. And at the same time, wow, this was at 14 when I just looked at it. So that's just some, okay. Hold on one second. Somebody doing some after hour bidding. Okay, so I just looked at ticker JRJR. It said 14, now it's saying 16 after hour. So anyway, we're gonna do our daily review on ticker JRJR, and then I'm gonna touch bases on ticker JAGX at the same time, because I know that is a stock everybody is waiting to jump in and ride that wave back up. All right, so 2.2 thousand followers, 2,200. I mean, we are rolling, people. We are rolling. I appreciate every single one of you. YouTube channel up to 939. Remember, I said I wanted to hit 1,000. We are only 61 subscribers away. Hey, we hit 1,000 followers, I have another video lesson for you all. I teach you another one of my tips and tricks. Okay, so 1,000 followers, 10,000 by the end of the year. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Ticker JRJR. We're gonna do some in-depth analysis on this one. We're gonna get rid of the Bollinger Bands. We're just gonna do some pure chart analysis. We're gonna get rid of all of this. All right, so as you can see, ticker JRJR. Let's look at the price action first and foremost. It looked like it was doing some consolidation right here. As you can see, that support area is right there at 30. Then it started consolidating in this area, with the bottom being right around 16 cents. As you can see, right here, test, came up again, tested, bounced off, came back down to that area, didn't touch it, but bounced off that general area again, a lot of retests, and then it finally failed the trend. Ran all the way down again, and then the support was right here, give or take 11.5 cents. Now me, when I mark my lines of support, a lot of people do it at the tip of the wicks, top or bottom. Like right here, they would say that's the resistance, and right here they would say that's the support. You could do it either way. Okay, a support or resistance area is just pretty much a general area where the price action has trouble passing through, whether it's breaking through and or falling below, right? Resistance and support. The reason I do mine's right on top of the candle is because right on top or below the candle is because I do it where the close is at. Okay, so like, even though this candlestick dipped all the way down to 16 cents, or 16 and 2/4, 24 cents, whatever, buyers accumulated those shares and brought it back up to here. Okay, so I do it where the close is at, because that tells me down in this area, this where buyers were interested. I think my son just screamed in the back end. This shows me buyers are interested down in this area, and they closed it back up to here, right? And then same on the opposite end, when it's running up and I'm looking for a resistance area, I do it to where buyers were able to close it at again. So they were able to close it at this top. Yeah, you had all these wild peaks right here, but when the trend finally ran up, they were able to close it right here and hold it before it failed again. All right, so that's just how I do mine. So just quick side note. All right, so anyway, you had this support right here, the trend failed, then it found support right here in that 16 cent range, trend failed again, and then it found support right here in that 11.5 cent range, and then we had this nice run up back into, again, golden rule, old support, new resistance. So it ran back up into that old line of support, got rejected, and it has now been trending back down. So why do I think for one this stock is going to continue its uptrend? Because you had a consolidation pattern here, failed, another long consolidation pattern here, again failed. All right, so what makes this go around any different? Okay, number one, what makes this go around any difference, and I'm going to show you when we go to the weekly chart, we had a breakout from this time frame right here, from this late February to mid-March. It was a breakout on the weekly chart. This time frame right here, back on the weekly chart, was still technically in a downtrend, and then on the daily, all the price data was showing that downtrend. and then it continued to break down. So we'll go back to the weekly in a minute. All right, so now looking at this, where would this possibly fall to? Okay, so what we have to find here is where was the old resistance, because then that should become golden rule new support. So if we were to, so just taking a look, it looks like the old support area was right here as the trend began to fall. As you can see, as the trend was dropping down, it found support right here. It looks like high 12, low 13 range, and then it dropped below and fell in this channel, and then it finally broke back out of the channel and found support on top of this again, and then ran up. So right now it's in a pullback. Where do we think this stock will possibly pull back to? All right, so just looking at this, old resistance should become new support. All right, and just looking, the price action should fall somewhere right here at either 13 cent even and or the high 12, right? But either way, it looks like it's not going to fall below that 13 cent marker. Okay, now as we get the pullback, we want to continue to see the volume decrease. All right, so as you can see here, low volume, finally the volume started picking up, showing that there was buying interest, and then finally you get this nice climatic spike right here where a lot of buyers are buying in, and then now you get the pullback. All right, one thing about a pullback is, on a pullback, the volume will decrease each day, as you can see here, like a step ladder down. That's considered a pullback. A failure is when the volume each day is either consistently even and or it's increasing on each day, because that shows that there are more and more and more sellers. All right, so that's how you identify a pullback and then a complete failure of a trend. Okay, so as this begins to pull back, as you can see, the volume is decreasing, showing that the profit takers and or sellers, they're starting to wane out of this stock one by one. And as they begin to get out of the stock, then all the buyers, like I tell you all the time, who are sitting on the sidelines and they missed this initial run up, then they will begin to come in and say, okay, this is pulling back to a reasonable price, because again, that push and pull struggle between buyers and sellers is all about finding an equilibrium, right? Sellers want to get rid of their shares at a specific price. Buyers want to buy into the stock at a specific price. So there has to be an equilibrium where they are willing to meet in the middle and say, okay, here, I will buy your shares at this price, and sellers will say, okay, I will sell my shares at this price. So right now on the pullback, that's what we're looking for. We're looking at that line of equilibrium where buyers are interested and sellers are able to get rid of their shares. Okay, so right now you have some profit taking, and the trend is continuing to drop because buyers have not yet came in the masses at a price that they think is fair. All right, so where do we think a price is fair as a more experienced trader? Well, number one, I want to see that that old line of resistance holds as support. All right, which is right here, right around that 13 cent area. Me as a buyer, if I see that old line of resistance is now holding that support, then that tells me that this trend is still intact and it has a possible chance of running back up. Okay, so as it begins to pull back into this area, right now you can see it's right at 13.9. As it begins to pull back in this area of mid to low 13s, then you should see some buying volume, low buying volume, to show that there's some interest in the stock, right? And then you will see the volume begin to pick back up, showing that other buyers are coming in because now they see that the old resistance is holding that support and the overall trend is still intact. So we should see a pullback, long story short, here to that mid to low 13s, some slight consolidation and or even a bounce play right off of that 13 cent area, and then we want to run back up into this resistance right at 17 cent, give or take. Okay, now if we break through 17 cent, what profit targets are we looking at? All right, so for one, we have to identify old resistance of this overall trend, in which we identified earlier, right here where the stock was able to close at. Okay, so as we can see here, price action pushed up into this area, rejected, support, ran back up into this area again, rejected, pulled back, ran into that area again, rejected, pulled back, ran up, rejected, and then finally the trend failed. So profit target wise, if you were to play this just right, as this pulls back to that mid 13.5 to 13 cents, if you buy in that general area, a run from 13 cents let's just say you are able to get in at 13 cents. A run from 13 cents to 17 cents, that's a 4-cent spread, which is easily a little over 33% gain on however much you decide to put into this. Okay, if you break through that 17 cent on high volume, a run from 13 cents to this next line of resistance right around this 22 to 22 and a half cent, that's a little over a 60 to 70% return on your money. Okay, and we're just talking about a 13 to 22 cent spread, which is a 9-cent spread. Okay, so this right here is a guaranteed play to start watching and looking at, and that's just price action alone. Now let's look at our RSI, which I always talk about. Okay, I trade a lot based off what my RSI is telling me. That's all I need is the RSI. I could literally trade a stock utilizing the RSI support and resistance. That is all you need. Okay, I have other indicators and oscillators as a backup to my RSI, but again, the 14-period moving average by default, RSI is the North Carolina blue line. My 10-period moving average is the yellow line, along with my 30-period moving average, which is the green line. Anytime a stock has momentum, because the RSI measures momentum, okay, it shows you the momentum in the stock. Who's in control, bulls or bears? If the bulls are in control, your RSI will continuously tick up, making higher highs and higher lows. If the bears are in control, then your RSI will continuously trend down, making lower lows and higher lows. Okay, lower lows and lower highs. Okay, so looking at the RSI, as you can see right here on this original downtrend, it was below that 10-period moving average. When it broke above the 10-period moving average, that does not mean the stock is in a bullish trend yet. That just simply means that the bulls are trying to come in and accumulate shares in this general area to see if overall they're all in agreement with trying to buy this stock in this price range and push it up. All right, that's why you have this momentum break above the 10-period moving average. When it pushed into the 30, it got rejected, and then it kind of broke above the 30-period moving average and held above, and then it failed altogether. Once it failed, then you see the price action drop all the way down back into this general area. Again, your RSI is below that 10-period moving average. It finally has a breakout and above, and then a retest to make sure there isn't a failure in this area of momentum. Once it retested and found support, then you can see it begin to trend up, making higher highs and higher lows, which gives you this little run right here from 16 to 23 cent. All right, it breaks back below that 10-period moving average. That doesn't mean the trend has already switched to bearish and that the bears have taken control of the momentum, because it found support on that 30-period moving average, had a nice bounce off to continue the trend, which you see here, which is that 18 to 26 cent run. And then it tried to find support on the 10-period moving average, and then the 30, and it failed altogether. Once it failed altogether, which reflects in this price action here, and it goes back up to try to make a break above and gets rejected, then that tells me the bears is in control of the momentum, because we had a failure break. It did not break back above that 10-period moving average. So right here on this failure break, I would have gotten out of this stock in this general area, because as you see, we're having issues breaking back above. Again, failure break, still trending below it, tried to make a break above it again, failure break, and then after 2 attempts, this stock fails altogether. Okay, as you can see here, we're below that 10-period moving average, showing the bears are in control, downtrend, stock in a downtrend. Again, it hits a bottom, double bottoms out right here to show that the bulls are coming in and trying to accumulate the shares, and then you get a nice break above the 10-period moving average, find support, a break above the 30-period moving average, a retest to see if there's a failure, and then it holds above it and begins trending back up, which is the price action here. Okay, so this tells me, the RSI is telling me that the bulls are in control of the momentum right now. Okay, we are holding above the 10-period moving average. Is there a chance that we can break below the 10-period moving average to head down to the 30 to find support? Yes, there is a chance. If we break below the 10-period moving average, then and we're heading down to the 30 to find support, then what does that correlate with your price action? That correlates that with right here, where it's at the high 13s, 14 cents, then that would correlate with the price action pulling back down to that 13 cent range for a retest of prior resistance now being support. See how it correlates with one another? And then that tells me that the overall trend is still intact. Now, once it retests that 30-period moving average, if it decides to, because tomorrow you can have a bounce off the 10 and the trend continues, but if it decides to on Friday head down to this 30-period moving average for a retest to make sure the momentum is still intact, and then that correlates with the 13-cent pullback, then that's a safe entry for you, right? Moving into Monday, if you get a bounce off, then you know that the bulls are still in control of the momentum, which will correlate with a bounce off the support, and then you start heading into these price targets area of 17 and 22 cents. Okay, where you can work on getting that 4-cent spread, that 9-cent spread, all right, taking your 33% return to your 70% return on your money, right? And it's just that simple. Okay, now how do we know that the overall trend is intact all together, right? Why did these past failures right here, why did these past periods of consolidation here fail, and then this period of consolidation right here fail right here? Well, let's go out to the bigger picture. Let's look at the weekly. Now, when you go out to the weekly and looking at your RSI again, as you can see those periods of consolidation, when you see the RSI on a bigger scale, right, we were in a downtrend. The bears were in complete control of this stock. And then when you had that break above the 10-period moving average and a retest and hold above it, remember I told you that doesn't mean that the bulls are in control of the momentum. That just simply says that the bulls are attempting to take control of the momentum by accumulating shares and coming in to show buying interest. On a weekly scale, when this went up to test that 30-period moving average, it got rejected. And when it got rejected, not once, but on 2 different occasions, then that trend failed, which is what we saw on the daily. And you had this nice, not gap down, but this nice downtrend. Now, if you look, the price action over the past, give or take looking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, month, as you can see, the RSI has swung above the 10 and 30-period moving average, which shows the momentum has now been put in the bear's hands, the bull's hand. The volume correlates to that, showing the buying interest. You get a volume spike here, you get an even larger volume spike here, and now your RSI on a weekly scale is pulling back to retest that 10-period moving average to show that the momentum is in the bull's hand, which correlates to this pullback that we are now seeing this week. Okay, so that's how we get the bigger picture trend. Just because on the daily it shows you have a breakout above that 10 or that 30-period moving average, that does not mean the bulls are in complete control. Because if you go out to the weekly, and on the weekly you're still below that 10 or 30-period moving average, then on a bigger time frame, on a more massive scale, the bears are still in control. And you never, when you're in the stock market, you never want to go against the grain. All right, you always want to ride the wave in the direction that it is going. Okay, always. You will never see a surfer with a big wave coming in, okay, riding towards the wave to go against it. No, a surfer is going to ride with the wave. Okay, so you always want to try to be with the wave. If the bears are in control, then you don't need to be a long-term buyer holding a position. You need to either stay on the sidelines in cash, and or if you like to short stocks, then you need to look at shorting it. If the bears are in control, then you need to look at maybe entering a position somewhere at support and then going long, as long as the weekly and the daily correlate to show that the momentum is in the bull's control. All right, now just talking about that, let's go talk about ticker JAGX, because this one is coming up next. So just like we talked about with JAGX, I already did my analysis on this one. If you haven't seen it, then go back and watch it. All right, but we're just going to look at this from an RSI perspective. The RSI, as you can see here, broke out above the 10 and the 30 and is now pulling back. As you can see, it fell below the 10, but now it fell flat in between the 30 and that 10-period moving average, showing that the momentum is now at a stalemate. All right, the momentum was on a downtrend. As you can see here, the RSI pulling back, but as it got right above the 30, it went flat. Okay, that price action, the momentum going flat reflects in the price action that bulls are beginning to, well, number one, the selling is coming to a all-time low, meaning sellers are now getting out of the way. As you can see with this volume decrease that I spoke about in my last video back on Monday or Tuesday, we said we want to see a volume decrease showing that the sellers are getting out of the way. Now we're seeing this volume decrease. Sellers are starting to move out of the way. Now us as bulls, as buyers, once we see that sellers are getting out of the way with the volume decreasing, us as buyers, now we're interested in the price action, and now we're going to come in and start accumulating the shares. Mind you, you get this candlestick right here. And then I also said in my last video, we want to look at some accumulation between that 18 to 20 cent range. So finally hit that 20 cent, and automatically there was some buying interest, and now it's holding right at that 20 to 21 cent range. All right, so now we see our RSIs at a stalemate. Sellers, as far as sellers, the volume is decreasing, showing that the sellers are moving out of the way. So what we need now is buying interest to come in, because the sellers are moving. Now we need the buyers to come in to overwhelm the sellers, because there's not that many of them left. Now when the buyers come in and overwhelm the sellers at a large number, then they will begin accumulating the shares in this price range, and then begin pushing this stock back up to start running and retest those highs. Now looking at let's go on an intraday time scale. Looking at a 2-hour time frame where I make my entries at, if we look, your RSI is coming down and it has flatlined sideways. Okay, as it has flatlined sideways, what do I always tell you all? What is the bull zone for the RSI? The bull zone for the RSI is when it finds support in that 30 to 50 area. All right, so if we feel this, turn it green, as you can see here, as long as your RSI holds above that 40 to 50 area, then that shows that the trend is still intact as far as bulls. Bulls are still showing interest in this stock. So you had the nice breakout finally based off the news and technicals, and then it fell below that 10-period moving average and that 30-period moving average, right? Which says there's a downtrend in play, which is what we got. The fail through on the 10 and the 30, and the failure to try to break back above, and then your RSI ticking down below to show that the momentum is in the bulls, not the bulls, the bears control on the intraday scale. Now your RSI is beginning to tick sideways, which shows that the selling is now flat and it's still in that bull zone. As we can see here in the past, it's still in that bullish zone. It hasn't broken below 40 to show that the overall trend has failed. It's still in that bullish zone, and look at what your RSI is trying to do. It's trying to break back above this 10-period moving average, okay? And that's showing you that the bulls are coming in on an intraday time frame, and they're trying to accumulate the shares to begin the reversal process. They're trying to show that buyers are beginning to overwhelm sellers, and they're accumulating the weak hands and beginning to push the price action back up. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a break above the 10-period moving average to show that the bulls are attempting to take back control of this stock. And then once we get a break above the 10, once we get a break above the 30, then that signals a break above 30 and either a retest to show that we're holding above it, or a break above 30 and for it to keep trending higher. Then that shows that the bulls are now back in control of the momentum on an intraday time frame, which should then push over into your daily to show the reversal. But right now we know interest is right here at that 20 to 21 cent price range. So if you are looking to make an entry, I would start looking to make an entry right about now and being aware. Now at the same time, with the RSI on a bigger time frame, weekly time frame, if you look, you had this nice breakout in volume, a lot of profit taking, which is why you get the long candle wick here. And then as you can see here, a consolidation candle showing that there's profit taking and buying at the same time, and it's holding in this general range, right? So what we should see next week is, you see you had a lot of buying volume, and then the selling volume is way lower than the buying volume, right? Which only signals a pullback, consolidation on a weekly time frame. So this week is a week of consolidation. Buyers and sellers trying to come to some sort of equilibrium on where they want to sell and buy the stock. Now that they've come to that equilibrium, which has been identified from that 20 to 22 cent range, next week buyers will begin overwhelming the sellers, and they will start pushing the stock back up to retest this high of 44 and moving into these old highs over here. That's only if the bulls begin to overwhelm the sellers and you see the momentum shift. Now, what other stock did this exact same thing? As you can see here, you had this large breakout in volume, and then you had a low volume consolidation week, which gave you one of these candlesticks. Okay, what other stock did this? Let's look at ticker JAGX. Again, you have these large volume spikes, and then you have a low volume week of consolidation. Another large volume spike, consolidation weeks on low volume. large volume spikes, consolidation weeks on low volume, right? And where's your RSI? Your RSI has clearly broken above that 10-period moving average. You see how it broke above here and then went flat to show that it's testing and holding above it, and then finally the breakout, and now it's trending up, making higher highs and hopefully higher lows. Okay, even on ticker AKER, we're looking for this to make a higher high to show that the trend is still strong. Okay, if this pushes up next week and the highs are both even, then that shows the momentum is getting weak and that this trend is going to reverse. Okay, so this is the same thing we're looking at on ticker JAGX right now. You see the RSI on a weekly time frame was breaking out above the 10. It finally broke above the 30 here, came down for the support, showing that momentum was still in the bull's hand on the larger time frame. Finally had the breakout on technicals and good news, and now your RSI is turning sideways to show a consolidation week. All right, if it was a large selling week of volume, then your RSI will cut lower down like this, but since it only went sideways, then that shows consolidation and it's low volume compared to the previous week's worth of volume. So going into next week, we should see that 20 to 22 cent hold, right? And then we should see a breakout to begin making a higher high than this week. All right, now going into next week, if you see that 20 to 22 cent not holding, and then it breaks above this week's prior low on increased volume, then that shows you that the overall trend has failed and buyers are no longer interested in that price range, and they're staying on the sidelines as it begins to drop again until it comes to another stage of equilibrium. Okay, all right, so man, I just dropped a lot on you all. Hopefully you took it all in. Hopefully you took notes. Okay, if you learned something, the RSI is my favorite oscillator, okay, if you know how to identify support, resistance, volume, and read your RSI, you will become a way better trader. And my kids are in the background playing. So if you learned something, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Stock Twits, and then let's continue making money together. All right, till next time, TTM Trades, leave a comment below. I'm out.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.